Welcome to day 4 of Revenue Revolution, where we tackle LinkedIn outreach. Here's a confession. For a while, I resisted LinkedIn outreach tools because I'd seen way too many spammy messages that felt robotic. I did not want to be that guy. But at the same time, I also knew the manual route, trying to connect with new prospects one by one, was eating up hours, and I was leaving leads on the table. So, what if we blend efficiency and authenticity? That's where LinkedIn outreach integration comes in. We hook N10 up with tools like Phantom Buster or API or similar service, set some guardrails so we are not spamming everyone, and then use AI to personalize intros. The result? You reach more people faster without sounding like a canned template. Imagine you have 50 leads from day one scraping. A workflow pulls their LinkedIn URLs, check if they are relevant or not, and sends a friendly, "Hey, noticed we share an interest in X, would love to connect" message. Nothing over the top, just a quick, genuine opener. And if they respond, you already have day 5 pre sales research on them. You're not blind. That's a total game changer. Instead of living on LinkedIn all day, you let the system do the heavy lifting. Focus your energy on those who actually respond, who actually want to chat, because the best conversation comes from a combo of speed and sincerity, not from spamming or from ignoring LinkedIn entirely. Watch today's video for a step by step on hooking LinkedIn to your entire funnel. With the right dose of AI personalization, you'll turn cold outreach into real dialogues. Let's get started. First thing we need to do to fetch all the employees or people related to any company is come to this LinkedIn profile scraper API on API, right? Now, this API is a little different than earlier ones because in the earlier ones, we could put in an array of URLs, but in this it only accepts one URL. So we might need to change our input and design a completely different workflow than what we did earlier. Now I also checked another APIs doing the same thing, but they were not as good as this one. So we'll continue with this and let's see how it works. So let's jump on to N10. We'll start with workflow with a trigger manual. The first thing we'll do after this is HTTP request. We'll be calling data from 20 and we'll basically call the companies, and for each company we'll try to find their employees or people related to that company, right? So let's call 20 URL. Now, those are the variables or credentials used to fetch data from 20. We'll need a URL. We'll be using get method. Authorization will be bearer and the entire token. I have not pasted the entire token, but you can of course copy the entire token from 20 and paste it here. And for headers, we'll have this two data. I've filled all the details. Now the next thing we'll do is add code, because the response we'll receive from 20 is a lot to take, lot to process. And for code, I have already written the code in my directory on my notepad, and which is here. So let's just paste this. What this does is it will go inside data object and I iterate through companies. For every company, it will just get us the URL, which will be the LinkedIn URL of that company page. Next will be the name. This will be the employee name which we want finally, and company ID is the same as the other details of company, which from the company table in 20, right? And then we have location, which mentions the city address, right? And finally, if we do not find such details, we will just ignore those records, right? So if URL is missing, if there is no URL found in primary link URL key in data's data companies, we'll just skip that. So I'll just copy this in our code here. I'll make this available in a document and attach it on YouTube description. Now the next thing we'll do is loop through data because we'll be receiving an array of companies, right? Companies with a link, which will be the URL or LinkedIn URL, name, location, and company ID. So what we'll do, we'll take the link of LinkedIn and then we'll call the API, right, for LinkedIn Public's key scraper. Now the three nodes we'll use here will be the same as we did in the previous workflow. So I'll just copy paste it here. So we not do not waste time there. So here's the loop and here's my pasted nodes. So the first thing I did was define all the data because we will be going through an ob each and every object of the array will use this across that loop, right? So I'll have defined it every variables or every keys of it. And the next thing we did is call API URL with the same credentials as we do earlier. Then we are waiting for a few seconds. I set it as 30 seconds, but check for yourself which what time suits perfect. Normally, the workflow gets executed or the API gets executed in like 10 to 20 seconds. So I've kept the wait time as 30 seconds, but you can always modify it. And finally, we'll be fetching the data which we just set in motion. And this is the extra node which I put in just now, which is just checking if the employee data is available, right? So let me show you how the response looks like before we move ahead. So this is the API request which we do to API to get the data which we had set in motion or set to collect and gather and give it to us earlier. And after waiting, we receive this response which is quite long, right? And most of it is not required by us. Only we need this employee data so that's what I added in if node. If the employee data is available, do move forward. And if it is not, let's just loop around and go on to the next company. So let's go back now. If the employee data is available, we'll move forward and keep the same employee data in our hand, right? Or in a variable, we'll just create a variable and put that employee data. And that employee data could be found here. Yeah. I'll just copy this and paste it here. So all the rest of the data which is there, which is just clutter, we won't be needing that. We'll just need this. And the next thing do is we'll need loop or we'll loop through all the objects in the array, right? So this employee variable which we just created here will be an array. Now the data which will be forwarded from edit field to loop over items will be an object, and inside that object will have a key employees, and that employees will be holding that entire array, right? Now, to feed data to loop over items, it has to be just an array. It cannot be an object, and we cannot go inside sub objects inside loop over items because there are no additional uh, features or no additional options for that. So what we'll do, we'll use code again for this, just like we did earlier. And here we will add this part, right? So what we'll do, we will add edit fields and all and zeroth array or zeroth object dot JSON dot employees, right? So let's paste it here. Make sure you remove all the unnecessary stuffs. And also this is name edit field one, which should be the case here as well. So we do not miss data somewhere or data just doesn't get lost somewhere. Now for loop over items, what we have done till now is we have received the data, we have removed all the unnecessary stuff, and we just have an array now which we are looping through. Now the this array has people's information, it has company ID, which that employee should belong to, and also some other information like location or address of the company, and also LinkedIn URL of that employee or people or person we are fetching LinkedIn profile of, right? So what we'll do now is we'll add the data in 20, right? And to do that, we will use HTTP request here, and we'll get rid of this. No, yeah, and this has shouldn't been done. This should be in loop. Make sure and be aware that those are two different things, and it can really make difference to your workflow. Now here we will use post method, and we'll use the same method which we did in earlier videos, right? Where we were adding people in our 20 CRM. So I'll just copy that node and paste it here. Okay. And here we go. I've pasted the API. You can do the same. If you haven't seen the previous video, you can do it because those videos are step-by-step approach to what we want to achieve or what service or application we are creating. So in the first video, we added companies. In the second video, we enriched those companies and added employees and people. And now we are again doing the same thing in much more focused way because in the previous version, we only could found two or three employees or two or three people. But in this way, or using this API of AP5, we'll be adding many more employees. So I've added authorization, bearer and token, content type is application JSON, accept application JSON again, and this is the body. Okay, so we have name inside it, we have first name and last name, email will be primary and additional emails. We do not have email yet because if the person has emails attached to LinkedIn, LinkedIn rarely shares it if the person allows it, and there are many more conditions. So in more cases than there are, it's just not available. So we'll just leave this as is. But if you do find it, you can always add more variables here, just like this, or more sections there. We have primary link, which is of LinkedIn, and finally we have company ID. So this will make sure the person is related to the company which we want in our CRM, right? Now, let's not just connect directly to this loop back here. Let's add one more filter or one more blocker in between, which will be a response. Let's just say it that way. And this will be $JSON. Now, why we are doing this? Because this post request will generate some response, and we do not want to feed that back in the loop. So it will just go on and maybe sometimes misbehave. So it's better we introduce this thing. Now our response or the output of this is inside response key, right? And loop over items does will not go inside a key. It will just check if the receiving item is an array or not, right? So with that said, we have a couple of split ends which we should be addressing now. So we start the workflow here. We call 20 companies from 20 API or 20 CRM. Then we manipulate the data with code. We loop over items, and then again filter out the unnecessary stuffs. Call the API, and then again fetch data from API. And finally, if the data is not available, we just go back to the loop and go ahead with the next company if the data is available, which is here. If the if is true, right? If the array is not empty, we will move forward. We will again take out the necessary things and feed it into the code, which will again format it better and feed it into the loop over items. Finally, we will add the data in 20 loop, and this will just filter out the response. Now, if this is done, let's take this node and put it back where it's here, right? Because we are processing one company at a time. So if one company is done, the entire loop is done. We will move ahead to the next company, and that's it. We have no loose ends. Just have here because this is the end of our API or the entire workflow, and it's fine if we leave it as is because we are not doing anything more after this point. So let's just run this and see how it works. Triggering the workflow, and let's jump to 20 CRM. And our workflow is executing. Let's give it a few seconds. And meanwhile, please like our video. Do subscribe to our channel for many such videos. We have created a series of workflows which will be we are posting every day to provide as much value as possible. And honestly, this workflow took me around 6 to 8 hours, around 8 hours to first build because the workflow API structure was totally different than what we did earlier. If it were the same, it would have taken like an 30 minutes or so. But because of this different structure, I had to continuously run and test each and every node to check how the data is exactly flowing, right? And Aniten does not allow or does modify data along the workflow. So it's a little unpredictable in that sense. But once it is done, once it is ready to be used, we can rely on it completely to always work properly. But that's how I was able to create this workflow. I found the API, the perfect one from API store. And even there are many more APIs available for finding employees of companies, and most of them are not useful. Some of them are asking for cookies as well, which I had to download from my LinkedIn profile, right? Not my profile, but by logging into my LinkedIn and then going to the network tab and then copying the cookies from there and pasting it to that API, which was not very safe to do. But I am glad we found out this API, which did not require any cookies, and it does deliver data correctly as much as any other API would, or better than most APIs did, which I found out in AP5. But if you do know any other platform, do feel free to try that and let me know if it works better for you. I am sticking to AP5 because some of the APIs I already created on AP5 and it is working well for me. It's just a store of APIs and that's what it is. It's taking a while because we added around 30 seconds of interval after every work loop or after every element in the loop. So I'll just pause the video here and wait for this to complete and start it again. Yeah, Vico, our workflow has been executed correctly and we have people coming in. Harsh Patil and yeah. So this is just his image maybe for something from LinkedIn. It's a display profile photo. And we have link of his LinkedIn profile. We have subtitles again from LinkedIn, and we processed it on this. We posted it or saved it on our database on CRM, and this is the response. In response, we have first name Harsh Patil, we have LinkedIn URL, and again all the other details. So let's check. It has also a WebZ card, free detailed business card. So let's check CRM and see if the data is there. We have Harsh Patil added for 5 minutes ago for with Zcard, and there are other employees as well or other people as well for GM Infotech, which we just saw, and Zahi Marketing and others, and HiveMind and everyone. So that's it. That's our workflow. We have fetched people or enriched people into our CRM through our workflow, and this will be automatic. So once this workflow is done, we can just push it or run it using the test workflow button, or maybe externally through an API or something, or maybe schedule it every day, right? So we can schedule all the four workflows which we created at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and 4 o'clock. The schedule node is available in Anatan. So everyone will run independently and fill our CRM with data every day. And when we log in the morning, we have a dashboard full of information ready to get worked on. So if you like this video, do give us a like, do subscribe to our channel, share it with your friends who might find this helpful. for their business or maybe for other purpose. And do write in comments how did you like this video, if you were expecting something else, or how were you able to create this workflow, if you found any issues or not. And yeah, do mention what would you like to see more in our next videos. Thank you.